All right, well, what's on my mind this morning? I heard some comments by the public defender Arlene Harrison Henry last week. It's Patricia Kay rolling her eyes because she knows exactly what I'm talking about. But she came out swinging, raising an issue about the data that is collected from detainees under the states of public emergency. And she has actually been calling on the security forces to destroy that personal data of those people who are detained under the states of emergency if they're processed and released. So if they're detained and then charged and whatnot, then of course you wouldn't destroy that data because it's evidence in whatever case would be coming up against them. But the majority of people, she argues, are detained for a few hours, processed, and then released. So she says that the data should be destroyed in the interest of preserving people's privacy.
Where one has not been charged, where one has been taken in, processed, and released, that data should be destroyed. And what we're seeing is that whilst a smaller number of persons are coming into custody, and I'm speaking about St. James, I'm looking at Westmoreland and Hanover, the vast majority of them are being processed and released. So the trend continues.
Now, in the same interview, which was conducted by Tyrone Reed and Kamisha Kelly on Nationwide at 5 sometime last week, she also admitted that the law does allow the police to keep that biometric data of those who are detained. It's a pity I didn't have that little portion of the conversation where Tyrone actually challenged her, saying, well, are they doing anything illegal? But she says that there are no, her issue is that there are no safeguards in the law to dictate how the police use that data once it's collected.
The regulations do not say, nor do the regulations provide any safeguard as to how that information which has been gathered is to be kept. The appropriate security clearance, for argument's sake, as to how you can gain access to the information, and in what circumstances should that information be called into use.
So that's Arlene Harrison Henry, the public defender, and she was speaking on Nationwide at 5, I think it was last week, Tuesday. What day of the week was September 10? Yeah, it was Tuesday indeed. And Tyrone Reed and Kamisha Kelly were the ones who conducted that interview. And it stuck with me even nearly a week later because I completely disagree. Completely disagree, 100% rubbish, if you ask me. So, first of all, one of the things that struck me was that she accepted there's nothing wrong or illegal with collecting this data. So if there's nothing illegal about it, then what really is the issue? So she's still opposed to it, I guess, on principle or a rights basis, but I don't know what rights are these that could possibly be or are possibly being violated if there's no law being broken. So I suppose it's on principle then, but that is an issue that she would have to take up with lawmakers, with parliamentarians, to get them to change the law if that's the issue. And if she does go that route, I would encourage parliamentarians to ignore her, to not to listen to her and keep things exactly as is, the same way I am now, this morning, imploring the police and the security forces to keep on doing exactly what they are doing and collecting and storing that data from persons detained, because they're not doing anything illegal. And indeed, in their efforts, I believe they're doing more good than harm. Because here's the thing now, Patricia Kay, and this goes for, the same argument goes for the whole NIDS thing the other day that arose. If you're not doing anything wrong, if you haven't committed any crimes, you, Patria K, soon to be another name, soon to be Charles, if you're not committing any crimes, you're a law-abiding citizen, you haven't committed any crimes in your past, you don't plan on committing any crimes in the future, then why would you have an issue with this? I listen, Samsung has all my biometric data. They have my thumbprints, they have my eye print, they have my facial recognition, voice recognition, because I can wake up my phone with my voice. They have all this data about me. And I have no qualms about the police having the very same data because I'm not a criminal.
Kalila, I've long had this discussion and thought that you have your right to privacy, but you don't have a right to anonymity. And I think a lot of us are operating under this premise that you have a right to be anonymous in this country. And I don't agree with that. I don't.
And I also believe that even though the vast majority of people detained in SOEs are released fairly quickly, this actual collection of data is one of the ways that makes it so useful and so effective in bringing down the murder numbers. Because we've been wondering, well, how come there aren't so many arrests under the SOEs? And how come the numbers for finding guns aren't so great under the SOEs? But somehow they've been effective in reducing the number of murders. Perhaps it's because of this very means of collecting a vast amount of information, improving the intelligence that the police have. Perhaps that has been one of the big things that has made a difference in making the SOEs as effective as they have been. And since the biometric part of NIDS was struck down, which I supported fully as well, I think it's unfortunate that was struck down. I say, well, get the information by any means necessary. By hook or by crook, can't catch Harry, catch his shirt, right? Because it's like, I feel like some people fail to realize that we've been living in a crisis. And in times of crisis times require crisis-like measures. If you're in a war, you have to fight a war like you're fighting a war. You can't fight a war like you're fighting a schoolyard fight. When the person that you're fighting against is this big, organized monster, you have to keep that in mind. Yeah? Some people just seem to fail to realize that this is wartime. Well over 1,000 murders a year is war zone. A murder rate which has at times exceeded 60 per 100,000 people in this small, beautiful island. Those are warlike numbers. You go to countries where they have civil war, Syria, parts of Africa where they've had genocide, and they don't have the murder numbers that we record on an annual basis in Jamaica. And yet, it seems that some people want to be light on the criminals and light on the crime-fighting efforts. And I don't agree with that at all, because they don't want the authorities to do anything meaningful about it. And I wonder why. So they claim that they do. They give proper lip service to it. You'll hear these same people saying, and I've made this point before on this show, you'll hear these same people saying, do something about crime. You have to do something about crime. Crime is out of control. Do something about crime. And then the government and the security forces say, okay, we're going to do this. And they say, no, don't do that. And then they say, okay, well, we're going to try this. And they say, no, you can't do that either. Okay. Well, let's try this. No, you can't do that. So what must we do? We must just continue living with the crime?
And on that same vein of us being a very unfair people, if any of those people who were released in the state of emergency did feature in a crime later on and we had no information on them, we same one would have turned around and cuss police and say, you had the man in your hand. You had the man in your hand. And you've let him go, destroyed all the evidence, and now you're telling me that you can't investigate it because you don't know who he is.
You see? Exactly. So the SOEs this is just fact. They've worked better than any other crime-fighting measure in the past several decades. And I've said this before too, I fully support their use for as long as necessary. I only wish we had the full NIDS to go along with it. But like Malcolm X said, by any means necessary. And if this is what it takes, then this is what we must do. That's what's on my mind.